Have you ever seen the moon during the day? Well, there is no rule that says the moon can only be out during the night. In fact, the moon is out during the day a lot, and some nights the moon is barely in the sky at all. You may not notice the moon as much when it is out during the day because the sky is so bright. Have you ever noticed that the sun and the moon look to be the same apparent size in the sky? Go ahead, see how big each of them looks to you. The sun and the moon are not actually the same size, though they look that way from Earth. The sun is so much brighter that we often may not notice the moon in the day sky. Now, if you've noticed the moon in the day sky, you probably have noticed that it does not look like a full circle. Think about some of the ways the moon can look in the sky. Have you ever seen a moon in the sky that looks like a banana? This one is called the Crescent Moon. Sometimes it can look like a little sliver in the sky. Have you ever seen a crescent moon before? Well, it looks like you have. What about a half moon? That is when the moon looks like a half circle in the sky. Okay, what about the one that shows you more of the moon? No, not quite a full moon. More like a full moon that someone took a little tiny bite out of. Kind of like a slightly eaten chocolate chip cookie. This is called the Gibbous Moon. The way that the moon looks to us in the sky is called the moon phase. If we include 2 more phases to our list, we will have them all. Of course, there is also the full moon, when the moon looks like an entire circle. And there is also a moon phase called the new moon. A new moon is when we don't see any of the moon at all. Now, the reason why we see the moon change the way it looks to us on Earth has something to do with the fact that the moon does not make any light of its own. The moon is not like the sun or even a light bulb that shines on its own. Instead, the reason we can see the moon is because it reflects the sun's light. The amount of the moon that reflects sunlight for us to see on Earth each day creates the moon phase for that day. It turns out that the moon's phases make a cycle, a pattern that repeats itself over and over again in the same order over the course of about 1 month. Do the pictures look like they are in a pattern right now? No, it looks like our moon phases are not in the correct order. Let's watch the moon throughout an entire month and use our observations to figure out the order of the phase cycle. Try to pay attention to how the moon is changing as we speed up time to look at the entire month cycle in just a few seconds. We will pause every few days. When we are done watching, we are going to put our phases in the correct order. To help us, we will mark every few days that go by. Remember, this is not how the moon changes in one day, but rather throughout an entire month. We will start off looking at the sky at 8 o'clock at night, starting with the new moon phase, which means you will see no moon at all this day. Look over to the west to see the crescent moon. This is still looking each night at 8 p.m. Oh look, by day 15, can we still see the moon in the sky at 8 o'clock at night? No, the moon is not in the sky at 8 p.m. at this point in the moon phase cycle. We now must switch to a daytime sky to continue to watch the rest of the moon phase cycle. Remember, the moon can be out during the daytime. So now, let's switch our observation time to 8 o'clock in the morning. Notice the moon is out at 8 a.m. over in the western horizon. Now we will watch the moon each day for the rest of the month, making observations at 8 in the morning. Remember, each of these observations are now at 8 in the morning. Since the moon phases form a repeating pattern that make a cycle, we can make a prediction as to what phase will happen next. Let's look at our moon phases. We will start the moon phase cycle with a new moon. I said we will start with a new moon. The beginning of the moon phase cycle is the new moon. But that phase only lasts for 1 day in the cycle. What phase came after the new moon phase? Point to the phase that you think comes next. Yes, a crescent moon. A crescent moon comes after a new moon in the moon phase cycle. And we can predict what is next. Point to the phase you think comes after the crescent moon. The half moon, right! The half moon comes after the crescent moon in this part of the cycle. Point to what you think is next. Yep, the chocolate chip cookie. I mean the gibbous moon. You have probably noticed the pattern by now. During this part of the pattern, the moon seems to be growing until we finally get to the full moon. This is only half of the moon phase cycle, though. To go from a new moon to a full moon takes about 2 weeks in time. Notice how the moon seems to be growing in the sky during these 2 weeks. This is what is called a waxing moon. There is more to the cycle. After the full moon, do you remember what moon phase came next? Nope, not a crescent moon yet. I'll give you a hint. The cycle starts to look like it's going backwards. That's correct, a gibbous moon again. Can you figure out what the rest of the pattern would look like? Good. This part of the cycle also takes about 2 weeks. Notice how the moon appears to be getting smaller and smaller throughout these 2 weeks. This is what is called waning. Waning is the opposite of waxing. So altogether, the entire moon phase cycle takes 29.5 days, or about 4 weeks. 4 weeks in time makes up a month. Yes, I said month. The word month that we use today comes from the word month. See the word moon inside of month? This word is directly related to the amount of time it takes for one complete moon phase cycle. If you went outside every day and drew a picture of the moon phase, you could make a moon phase calendar that shows the entire cycle. Well, I think that is enough for now about our closest neighbor in space, the moon. Remember to go out each day and look for the moon, both during the day and night. Notice its phase. Watch it over the month and see it wax and wane.